I'm going to be making a straight Italian ice in a minute, but first I'm going to bring in my associate, my head of security. She just got back from police training this morning, and she wants to say hello.
It's good.
Sammy.
Brian, what do you think?
You ready? You going to behave? You going to be a good girl?
All day long.
Calm down. Yeah.
Right. Evan's got 150 flavors. How simple is this?
Sit. Oh, the training is great. Down. Good girl. Good girl. Okay. She's 2.5. This is Samantha Jane Thompson, otherwise known as Sammy, and she's been in police training for a while, and so far all I can see is, no, you can't do that. All I can see that she's learned is she gets a toy in her mouth, and if you know Goldens, you know they're the friendliest animal in the world. She comes up and she deep growls her, like that. And if you know Goldens, you know that she's kidding. If you don't know Goldens, it scares the bejesus out of you. No, don't do that. See. But she's in all our videos, and so usually she's sitting on my lap while Jeff and I talk, but had to get her in to say hello and get her officially into the video. So, okay, good job. Heel.
Tell Crystal that we're ready for her.
Yes.
Boy, this will give you a brain freeze, won't it? Whoa.
Good girl. We are ready for Crystal.
But it's good and it's simple. Could there be anything simpler than this?
Water ice.
Water ice, which is next. Right, water ice. Now, by the way, this is not to say that you can't become really artsy. Here, this is raspberry chip cream ice. It's not to say that you can't be really artsy and imaginative and that side of the business, which I like at the store to be. I just do this for you guys, show you how simple it is. But you can do very creative things with swirls in it, with more swirls in it.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead.
I walked right in front of your
That's okay.
thing.
Go ahead.
Can you help me?
Probably not.
Yeah, I know.
You're beyond help.
I'm trying to use up stuff, so I have some candy canes from Christmas, but these aren't your ordinary candy canes. These are Oreo cookie candy canes. They're still candy canes, but they're Oreo. And you taste them when we're trying to figure out what does this taste like. It's not a candy cane. It's not an Oreo cookie. It tastes like well, now I've forgotten. A Tootsie Roll. It tastes like a Tootsie Roll. So we'll see. We'll turn it into an Italian ice. We'll also throw in some Oreo cookies to do it too.
What do you want to do, ninja this
If
stuff?
you'll ninja that for me. And the cookies I'll just throw into the machine. And so you have a recipe for a larger batch, for a 12-quart batch. I'm going to make a quick CB350 batch because I don't want us to run out of time. Jeff has another spectacular flavor to make, and we can also give you a tour of the factory. So I'm going to measure out a little under 2 pounds of sugar. What's that sugar in there? Just extra?
Don't know. Right. Yes, that's 2 pounds from a 4-pound bag.
Oh, it is? Okay. Well, that works well because I'm going to use just about 2 pounds. 1.25 pounds. No, that's kilograms. So let's switch this over to...
How did you switch it over?
2.7. So you just push that button there that says units.
Oh, okay.
Units. It said unit, not eunuch.
Hey, how much for a key?
2 points.
By the way, this is what those look like. When I do it at the store, I noticed I have this from last time. This is candy canes. After Christmas, everybody in the store goes out and buys those boxes because they're 25 cents on the dollar of candy canes. And then we peel them, and I ninja them, and I get this, and it's candy cane ice cream. And then we throw chips in it, and it's called peppermint patty ice cream.
And like maple syrup, it's so high in sugar content, the candy canes are, that they'll really last forever on the shelf. They just don't deteriorate.
What do we mean? Okay, that's good.
Get this to go down here.
Carry on.
Carry on. Listen to him. Somehow I'm not trusting
What
this.
flavor is this you're making?
This is candy cane, Oreo candy cane.
Okay.
Why, you want to add more of that
Well,
too?
I've got it's here if you want it.
You can. We'll give it a taste test before we
Okay.
put it in.
Okay.
0 set.
It tastes a little like Tootsie Rolls, so
Yeah, that's what everybody decided.
I think this is Pepto-Bismol. It's not my candy canes, that's for sure. I think it is Pepto-Bismol.
Well, after what we've put people through today, maybe they'll need it. All right, now I've got what I want. Okay, so here's my sugar and water. Sugar dissolves very easily in cold water. You don't have to buy any special bar sugar or anything like that. And you don't have to spend a long time dissolving it. It'll do it in less than 60 seconds. If I have a little drizzle of sugar left over that's coming down this container, don't worry about it. You're using such a massive amount that that small amount won't matter in the least. I should have a witch's hat on. Bubble, bubble, toil and trouble. Okay, yeah, I know. Okay, that's sugar and water. Make sure the gate's closed. Yes.
Yeah, sure. Did you try that?
Yeah, I took a scoop of it.
And?
It's so good.
Yeah, it's good.
I'm going to mix it up a little more. Okay,
Mix
let's pull this thing out here a bit.
cinnamon.
All right. Sugar, water. Let's start this up. I'm going to pick Italian ice out of this. Hit start. Turn on the refrigeration. I'm going to pour in my candy canes. And Oreo cookies. I had a father once call me. He said that just like I was raised, or we raised children on Sesame Street, he was raising his kids on Emery Thompson videos. And so he had a a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and he was babysitting on Saturday, and he put him on watching Emery Thompson videos, me on the screen. That's why I knew I had made it, because he said he walked past the room, and the 5-year-old to the 3-year-old is saying, "Now don't try this with a tailor machine." I'm gonna hire that kid. But same still applies. Don't try this with any other machine. It'll void your warranty. Plus, you wouldn't be able to do it anyway. But just drop them right in. I'm sorry, what? I think I will. Jeff tends to over flavor, so I'll give it a try too. In the real world, we could always cut it back. This is a 15-ounce package. This is a lot of cookies for this formula, but I want to make an impression. Now, we run a test. We run all our machines for about 3 hours before we ship them. And on this size machine, we run a test batch of 2 pounds of sugar and 4 quarts of water. That's our simulated Italian ice, but without, if I added a pint of lemon juice, it would be a lemon Italian ice. So that's where I started with my mathematics for this, is 2 pounds of sugar and 4 quarts of water. And I said, okay, but I'm going to add all these sugary cookies, and I'm going to add the candy canes. So what I did was I cut back on my sugar from the original formula, because I'm getting sugar from other sources. I'm getting it from the cookies, and I'm getting it from the candy canes. But the best and the nice thing about Italian ice, we haven't did. I'm just going on blind faith, but with Italian ice certainly, and to a lesser degree ice cream. But with Italian ice, I could take a sample here right now and taste it, and know if it's good or not. I'm just going to go wild and see what happens. Because what you put when it comes to Italian ice and cream ice, what you put in is what you're going to get out. The flavor isn't going to change. So you can know right away if it's a good batch. Maybe you need to add a little bit more. The last class Jeff and I did together back in October. He tasted the fruit ice that I was making and immediately said, next time add more sugar. Because there was enough fruit in there. I think it was raspberry. But sugar doesn't, I mean, it will make things sweeter, but in smaller quantities, like, a pint or something like that, or smaller amounts, it's not necessarily going to make you a sweeter product, but it will enhance the flavor of what you're doing. So if this flavor comes out a little bit weak, I won't add more cookies, I'll add more sugar. There is a difference in ices, in Italian ices. Up in New York, we call it Italian ice. Up in Rhode Island, it's called slush. Down at Universal Studios and Disney, where I am, it's called frozen lemonade. And in Philadelphia, it's called Italian water ice. Italian water ice and Italian ice are pretty much the same. All these products are pretty much the same, except the sugar content changes. In New York, on a big batch, just for comparison purposes, I'm using 7 pounds of sugar to make a New York Italian ice. If I go down the Jersey Turnpike to Philadelphia, and I'm going to make a Philadelphia water ice, I up the sugar from 7 pounds to 8 pounds, because the sugar also makes the product smoother. And they like a dead smooth Italian ice compared to New York, where we like a little consistency. If I go over to Bay 8th Street in Brooklyn, which is a neighborhood that I'd be the only person on the street not talking Italian, they're selling a product called Granita or Granite, usually Granita. And Granita is a coarse Italian ice. It's almost crunchy. And they drop from not 8 pounds, not to 7 pounds, but 6 pounds to make a Granita. So anybody tells you it's the machine, no, we're giving you a machine that is capable of mixing wet cement for the next 40 years, and nobody else can do that. But as far as the taste and the texture, it's the sugar content. That's what determines the smoothness of your product. So it's really pretty simple. And then with the frozen lemonade in Rhode Island and the slush in Rhode Island and the frozen lemonade at Universal Studios, That's just surprisingly a one-on-one, 1 pound of sugar to a gallon of water. It's really not very good. But how can I argue? They've had my machines, the same machines, since 1992 at Universal, and they run them 24 hours a day making frozen lemonade, and they haven't replaced anything. Some minor parts, blades, but those machines are still running. SeaWorld made Italian Ice for a long time, and then some suit decided that the profit margins weren't high enough. I can't see how. And the quality is, do you use an extract for your lemon, or do you use fresh squeezed lemon juice? And they both have their places. If I'm selling the Yankee Stadium and they want it just cold and refreshing and they want the highest profit margin, I use a lemon extract. If I have an Italian Ice business and I want people around the block and I change my name to Stefano Thompson, I'm using pure lemon juice. There's no substitute for pure lemon juice. Any questions? And of course, Jeff told you about the cream ices. Let me show you another Italian Ice-like product if I can find the bag here. Let me get one. Let me check on this. I have a propensity to walk away from my machines, don't I? This is technically called a vegan ice cream. It's not ice cream because to be ice cream it has to be 10% butter fat. This is basically Italian Ice, but instead of Italian Ice sugar, I'm using coconut milk and coconut water. Let's see how this looks. Oop, not yet. I'm very good at stereotyping, but there's a reason for it. It comes from the number of phone calls I get in. I take about 40 phone calls a day from 170 countries around the world. You start to see patterns. And a pattern that I have seen for the past year is the millennial age group, 22 to 39, you could argue the time frame. They don't really like dairy, not the way we do. They're not going to sit down and eat a pint of Haagen-Dazs the way my age group does. They don't put milk in their coffee. Again, this is a broad generalization. So you've got, and us baby boomers, I'm at the bottom end of the baby boomers. My sister is older than me by 6 or 7 years. She's at the mid-range of baby boomers. We were the largest buying group ever to come along in the history of the world. We were born right after, World War II, and everybody came home and had babies. I was born in 51, so I'm much later. They tracked us for 40 years what we bought. When we were teenagers, we bought used cars. When we were in our 20s, we got apartments. When we were 28, we got married. When we were 33, we bought our first house and started having children. Then we bought Dodge Caravans to carry the children. Now we're buying retirement communities at Jimmy Buffett's place in Daytona Beach. You can track where the money goes, follow the money trail. The millennials will be the same way. I have 4 millennial children, and they are completely different from me in their buying habits. At my son Scott, who lives in New York City, at his age with his wife, on a weekend I'd buy 2 big jugs of Boone's Farm wine, and that was the weekend. He would never think of doing that. Now he spends all week with his wife talking about buying a bottle of Bordeaux for $45 from Sherry Lehman, a very expensive liquor store, and that will be their weekend. They're buying less, but their spending power is more refined. They're eating better foods than us, they're drinking better than us, and their propensity towards frozen desserts leans towards dairy-free, in this case, coconut. Coconut is a wonderful medium. There's cashew nuts, there's soy, there's lots of different ways, and they all have negatives to me. Coconut works beautifully. So if I wanted to break it down technically, I could call what this is a coconut Italian Ice. But it happens to be vegan, it happens to be dairy-free, of course, like all Italian Ices, and they're buying it like crazy. I started this a year ago talking about it. Same process, sugar, flavor, and in this case I'm using this dairy-free product, which they called vegan until I got hold of them. Because vegan sounds like a 90-year-old man who weighs 90 pounds, and the guy, you're just begging to buy him a big Ruth Chris steak because he looks like he's going to collapse. So vegan doesn't sell. Dairy-free rolls off the tongue. It's an illegal term, and yeah, I've heard it before, but they're not going to come and drag you off to an off-site in Yemen because you called it, dairy-free ice cream, the two words. Breyers can't call it dairy-free ice cream. Breyers has a picture of it on their container, and it says dairy-free in big letters, and then frozen desserts. But calling it dairy-free ice cream just is a wonderful terminology. And what I propose is if you have a business that's got old-fashioned homemade ice creams, you add at least 2 flavors of this dairy-free, and just watch how many extra people that you didn't know were out there, come into your business. I give this speech to people up in New England, and they've been in business 40 years, and I hear the same old rhetoric. I ain't selling anything that doesn't have a cow head on it. And I go, yeah, how's that 8-track working out in your car? Get with the future. This is ready. So before I pull that out, let me just finish. The other thing is the advertising. The millennials are completely different from us. You and I go to a cocktail party. I get a new iPhone X, and which I would never do. I'm not paying $1,000 for a phone. I got a new iPhone X. I show it to you. I say, isn't this cool? And you say, yeah, that's really cool. Maybe I'll get one. End of conversation. I go to, 2 millennials go to a party. Sounds like a bar joke, doesn't it? 2 millennials go to a party, and one says, hey, I just found out Thompson's old-fashioned ice cream is selling dairy-free ice cream. Really? Text it over to me. I text it over to you. You text it to 10 of your friends that there is now dairy-free in your town. By the time that cocktail party's over, I guarantee you there's 500 people in a 20-mile radius of you that know that you have dairy-free and everybody else doesn't. And they're selling it. It's fabulous. Here's this product. Woohoo!
Is that working out for you?
That's working out for me just fine. And so, only in San Francisco. I have one customer in San Francisco opened up a whole dairy-free ice cream parlor. That's fine. It's San Francisco, and they're all a bunch of kooks anyway. They're also one of my biggest, power bases. But for the average person, I just trademarked a name. What is it? Coconuts and cows, and just trademarked it for fun. But selling old-fashioned hard ice cream, but also admitting that there is another group out there, a large group, the largest group in history, that you should be catering to too. It's so simple. It's no harder than this. And the product is called, she calls it Mammies, which is Italian for mommies. She calls it Mommies, which is Italian for mommy. But it's spelled like Mammies or Mammies. And so it's a little confusing there. This stuff's great. Just add water, and that's your base. And then you just add any flavor that you want. So there's my Italian ice. Beautiful. I'm dripping. Yeah, I know I'm dripping all over. So come on up, and we'll see if it's any good. Let me give it a quick try. Holy cow, this stuff's great.
So using the Mammies will still give it a bit of a cream ice consistency, right?
Yes, it's more ice cream than it is ice, but it's still made like an Italian ice.
All right.
Wow, this stuff's great. You're going to love it. Jeff, you going to try it?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
See, now I'm starting to overstuff you with this product because at some point you've got to go home. And this way I'm going to say, get me out of here. I'm tired of all this success. Thank you.
I don't know.
Really strange question for you guys.
Thank you.
Like using like a seltzer or sparkling water, what would happen?
All the fizz would come
All
out.
the fizz would come out.
Okay, that was either that or it would blow up on us. I was wondering.
It'll blow up.
Yeah, because it'll air will leak out.
It'll just,
Good.
the agitation's just going to take it
Oh,
out.
that's delicious.
I had a throat problem once, and they said you've got to drink soda that has no fizz. So I'd sit there for 10 minutes shaking bottles to make it flat.
What are the ingredients of this again? I missed that.
All good stuff.
Yeah, water, candy cane.
Water, sugar, candy canes, and Oreo cookies.
Right.
It's delicious, by the way.
The 100
Individuals or
millennials who want to get into business, and they have all made themselves CEOs, vice presidents, chairman of
Hey,
the
2 minutes.
board for creations, and they're pretending that they're going into business. And they're experimenting. Hey, Jeff,
Yes.
I'm going to put that 100 on Amazon one day soon. Yeah, it's my machine. Yeah, he makes a lousy product. Really? But it's terrible. It's all chemicals. Yeah, his machines are a good 50 years old. If you want to write down somewhere, the vice president's named Nate.
Millennial, he'll take a picture of it with his phone.
He just did.
Okay.
Can I get some more?
Sure.
I really like it.
Uh-huh. Yes, they're all the same.
I get some already. Is this in there or no?
No, this was just a straight Italian ice. No dairy whatsoever, just sugar, water, flavor. I'll be right back.